Dr. Yi, there's some research that shows some food as anti-platelet properties. What does this mean? And do we need to avoid these foods?
So lately, I've noticed a lot of people asking me questions like this. For example, I've heard this food has an antiplatelet property. Does this mean that I can't eat it anymore? Or questions like, does eating broccoli affect my thyroid function? Other people ask, can I eat mushrooms? Is there anything in mushrooms that can harm me? Well, part of this I feel like is not just down to a misunderstanding. It is mostly, in my view, down to a miscommunication. So, haven't you noticed that whenever you talk to doctors or scientists, they always say things in a really complicated manner? It's almost like they can't speak like normal people. Now, why can't scientists speak like normal people? It's almost as if as soon as there's a doctor in front of someone's name, use, they just can't be able to communicate these concepts in a more clear and succinct way. And I feel like a lot of this, it can put a sort of gulf between people and scientists. People feel like, oh, they're not talking in a normal way. They're not talking in a way that people who aren't scientists can understand. They're talking in a way for other scientists or other doctors. And it can come off as pretty arrogant. It can come off as if they have a really huge ego. So when they're talking like this, it's very, very easy for people to misunderstand what they're trying to say. And when this happens, I feel like it's down to them. They should have been able to communicate all of this specialized knowledge in a way that's more easily accessible, more easily understandable, because it is very important knowledge and it is something that I feel like everyone should know. And because they have all of this specialist knowledge, it's up to them to be able to figure out a way to communicate this properly. So let me give you some examples. For example, I've had a lot of people ask me as well, can people be reinfected after they get COVID-19? You might have seen headlines going, there's a chance that people can be reinfected, or you see articles saying that there have been a bunch of patients who have tested positive yet again for the virus after they've been discharged, after they've recovered. So why can they actually be reinfected? Why do people have this idea that they can be reinfected? And so you have all these articles coming out. And of course, the headlines are very sensationalized. They go, patients can get COVID-19 again. And it gets everyone really, really worried because you feel like, well, if I've had it once, then I should be immune. If I've had it once, that's enough. I don't want to go out and be able to get again. And if there's a possibility that people can be reinfected, then that means that you're not really safe even after you've got the infection. So even after you've got the infection, you still have to stay holed up at home, still have to take all these precautions to make sure that you won't get infected again. And I feel like a lot of the times when this happens is because doctors or scientists, when they speak about this, they are being very, very specific. They're using a lot of specialized terms and they're very careful to say anything that might be incorrect. So the way they speak is a way to be absolutely correct on their side, so people can't go after them afterwards and say, hey, you said this and that didn't happen. Well, why didn't that happen? It's because, well, scientists is a very imprecise process, and especially when all their words are being plastered over articles or media, they want to be super careful that everything they say is absolutely correct. For example, if you ask me if walking on the street, what's the likelihood of you dying because something fell on you? As a scientist, I would say yes, it's possible, because the possibility is there. It's a tiny possibility, but it's there. But if you ask me as a friend, if I was walking around on the sidewalk, would I be killed by something falling from the sky? I'd look at you and be, are you okay? Is there something we should talk about? Is there something you're really concerned about? Because that's not going to happen to you, right? Even if you're at home taking a bath, there's a possibility that you're going to die. Right? So the possibility is there. And because the possibility is there, they're going to say, yes, because of this and this and this and this, but everyone focuses on the yes parts. So let's take a look at all of these supposedly reinfections after recovering from COVID-19. So I think it first started out in South Korea when they found more than 200 COVID-19 patients there. After having recovered, they managed to find the virus again in their bodies. So this raised the alarm that the virus might be capable of reactivating or reinfecting people more than once. But experts will say, this is really unlikely. Rather, the method they use to detect the coronavirus, called the polymerase chain reaction, it doesn't actually distinguish between an infectious virus and a virus that's already dead, or a virus that's already been defeated by your immune system. So because it doesn't differentiate between, let's put it simply, something alive and a virus that's already dead, then someone can recover. They can no longer be infectious, but they can still have these little fragments of an inactive viral RNA inside their body, which means that when you run these tests on them, the tests will turn up positive because they still have all of these broken up virus pieces in their body that the body is still cleaning up. But that doesn't mean that they're sick. That doesn't mean that they're infectious. That doesn't mean that they've been reinfected again. So it's a misunderstanding of how they're doing these tests. To determine whether or not someone is actually harboring an infectious virus or has been reinfected, they would have to do a completely other type of test, one that's not typically performed because it's far more expensive and it takes far more time. So if they wanted to know for sure exactly if someone has been reinfected, they would have to take a sample from them, and then the lab technicians would have to culture it. They would have to grow the virus in the lab and see if it was capable of growing, because a dead virus won't be capable of growing. What's more, now infectious disease experts are saying that the process in which COVID-19 produces a new virus takes place only in the host cell. Right? So there's concerns that the virus will hide somewhere in your body and then reactivate later on, like other viruses can, such as chickenpox. Now, experts are saying that this is unlikely because this virus doesn't seem to inject itself into the host DNA, into the host genome, where it can stay for years and years and years and then reactivate. Because it doesn't do this, they say that it's very unlikely that someone can have a chronic infection or a reoccurrence. So notice these terms, it's very unlikely, and reinfection is very unlikely, but all of these things, it's still a theoretical possibility. So if you ask scientists, the theoretical possibility is there. So it is possible. It's just not very likely to happen at all. But they will say that it's possible because they don't know what's going to happen a year from now or a decade from now. No one has that sort of crystal ball that can look into the future. So to cover all their bases, they're going to say it's possible. And then people take that to mean the worst possible situation. So another thing that people have also been misunderstanding is something called the cytokine storm. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, I've read all these articles. I've heard a lot of people telling me that COVID-19 patients, especially the young patients, are dying from something called a cytokine storm. And a lot of people have this misconception that a cytokine storm happens because someone has a strong immune system. So they start to get really worried. Are they dying because their immune system is too strong? Does this mean that we don't actually want a strong immune system? Have all of my efforts been in vain? Well, this is again another misunderstanding. All of us, we want a strong immune system. A strong immune system is what is going to defend us from all sorts of infections of diseases. It's not just COVID-19. Look at COVID-19 right now. There's still no specific cure for the virus. There's still no specific treatment or medication that doctors can give for the virus. Most of the treatments so far is just to support your body while your immune system helps get rid of the virus for you. So what happens during a cytokine storm? Well, first let's look at what exactly is a cytokine. A cytokine, you can think of it like a communication agent. It helps communicate between the cells in your immune system. It will tell cells, hey, this is where the attack is. So everyone needs to come here and give your support. Right? That's what cytokines do. So in a cytokine storm, it means that these cytokines are out of control. It doesn't mean that your immune system is too strong. It means that there is something wrong with how your immune system is regulating itself. There's something wrong with the control of your immune system. Right? So you can think of the cytokines like the acceleration in a car. You want more cytokines because it calls immune cells to that site. It tells your immune cells what's going on. So it's like your foot going down on the gas pedal to accelerate the car to get to where you want to get. But if you have a cytokine storm, it's like your foot is glued to the pedal, glued to the floor, and your brakes are broken. That is what a cytokine storm is. It means your immune system has gone haywire. It's no longer controlling itself. These cytokines are running out of control. And because of this, your immune system, well, they only know what your body tells them to do. And because these cytokines are running everywhere, your immune system will also be running everywhere because these cytokines are telling your immune system, attack, attack, attack. Your immune system is attacking, attacking, attacking because it's doing what it does best. But because it's inappropriately attacking, because it's inappropriately acting, a lot of your body's own tissues become collateral damage. Right? So, especially because COVID-19 will be infected in their lungs. So the cytokine storm there affects their lungs. They get something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, which means that their lungs get damaged. They get a lot of inflammation there. And because of that, they can have all sorts of effects, for example, not being able to breathe or having to stay on a ventilator, all of these things. And it's not because your immune system is too strong. It's because the immune system has gone haywire. It's because the immune system is defective and is not able to rein in its attack. Because a normal immune system, after the attack is done, it will recall all of the soldiers. All of the soldiers will end the attack and they'll know that their job has been done. And in a cytokine storm, that just doesn't happen. Unfortunately, doctors, they don't know what exactly can set off a cytokine storm or what is the best way to treat it. Because it's not just COVID-19 that can set off a cytokine storm. There's a huge number of things that can set it off. For example, other infections can set off a cytokine storm. Medications can set off a cytokine storm. And there's not really any way to predict who will be more, who will have a cytokine storm and who won't. So it's one of those things that we do want to keep a close eye on. See if, because of all of these cases now, they can come up with a new way. They can come up with new research looking into it and saying, what exactly has gone wrong with the immune system here? And is there a way that we can support the immune system? Or is there a way where we can possibly identify who's more at risk? And is there a better way where we can treat everyone who has come down with cytokine storm?